Saba, it's so interesting to talk to you. So um, let's talk about your travel experience. You have visited 25 countries, and you learned from your traveling a lot. Uh, can you tell me about your lessons? How different countries developed you, influenced you, changed you, and what is the most important, maybe, what is the most important lessons you learned, and yeah, so.
Okay. So Turkey was my first foreign destination, and we on certain level have very similar cultures because these are both predominantly Muslim countries, and also we had some very close historical ties with Turkey, so Turkish people love Pakistanis, and there I always felt it's like I call it my second home now. And what I learned from Turkey was I regained this belief that I can do things on my own, because as I said, like before that, when I was in Pakistan, I never even traveled to another city alone, and then all of a sudden I moved to another country where I had no family, no relatives, no friends from before. And the first solo trip that I did was also in Turkey. Turkey in general, I find it a very safe country. In Pakistan, unfortunately, we don't have that environment. Especially as a solo girl, you can't really travel a lot. We had like a lot of bad cases, and unfortunately in the recent years they are rising. But in Turkey, I always found it safe. At least in my personal experience, I never faced any danger in those 5 years that I spent in Turkey. So in Turkey, I learned and gained confidence that I can do things on my own and can live an independent life. Then I think after Turkey, I went to Poland. That was a completely different experience for me. And to be honest, before going to Poland, I had received a lot of, I would say, negative warnings that Polish people are very racist and things like that. I'm sorry, I don't actually believe in it, because I met lovely people there. I was in Łódź, which is like 2 hours from Warsaw, and the moment that I entered in Poland, that I entered in Warsaw, I just had nothing but good experiences. I remember when I was at the bus stop and I was just, like with my phone and trying to figure out which bus to take to go to my, I had booked a hostel. And I didn't ask anyone, but there was this old woman, and she herself approached me and asked me, "How can I help you, young lady?" And she asked it to me in English, and I still remember the exact phrase, that "How can I help you, young lady?" And then she helped me with the transportation and everything. So that was my first, like right after I entered Warsaw. And then at my university, my professors were like always really nice. It was very different than Turkey because we were a very small class. Like in Turkey, in my class, there were like 200 people. But in Poland, we were a class of 25 to 30 students in one session. So I had a better chance to, interact with the teachers, to participate in class. And some of my teachers would even ask me questions about Pakistan, because apparently they didn't have students from Pakistan before. So it was like, interesting for them to know information and things about Pakistan. And
what did you say them about Pakistan?
I remember at that time I used to wear like a scarf. So once one of my teachers, she asked me like, if I go to Pakistan and if I don't wear it, will they kill me? And I understand, like maybe because that's how it is portrayed in the media, otherwise it's opposite. Like in Pakistan, especially where I live, like near to the capital, most of the women don't cover their heads. Also in my family, no one covers their head. And it was just my personal choice at that time, because I wanted to kind of break the stereotype, you know, because Islamophobia was at peak, and even though I don't identify myself as a Muslim, but I also don't like when somebody speaks so much against Muslims, because my family is Muslim and they raised me in a somewhat Islamic, you know, way, and they never taught me hatred towards anyone. In fact, they sent me to a Catholic school for 2 years. Like after I finished my second grade at high school, I studied for 2 years in a Catholic school. So they never taught me any hatred, or they never taught me that I am the best because of my religion or anything. So I wanted people to know that there are also this side of Muslims. And I told her that no, it's not true, and no one is going to hurt you just because you are not wearing a veil or a scarf. And then another thing that happened was I was like, we were discussing some group project there in class, and one of my group fellows, like, he was staring at my scarf, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with him. You know, for a moment I felt like maybe he was thinking something negative, but what he said was like, you know, it completely it had a huge impact on me. I actually had a pin, you know, to make it like more stable. I had a pin here, and it's like a sharp pin, and what he said was like, be careful that this pin doesn't hurt you. And you know, like, that's how it's important to talk to people, because I was thinking that maybe he's staring at me because it's something weird for him, or because he's thinking something negative. But what he was thinking is that I don't get hurt by that pin, which is very beautiful, and it's a small example. And
of the importance of your perception, yes?
Exactly.
And to live in the reality, not in your illusions.
Exactly. And also it's important to give each other a chance, because unfortunately, like, the media spreads more hate than positivity, I think, because these are the kind of news which get more hyped, you know, how could I say, like the hot news which spread faster. And that's why it's important to talk to people, and only then you can know what was the true behind it. And then another event that I had in Poland was during Christmas, our university arranged this program that because people were away from their home during Christmas, so they arranged this program where we could get hosted by local Polish families. And I like to celebrate everything, whether it's New Year, Easter, like the Muslim festivities, and I also signed up for it, and I got hosted by a Polish family. And that was also one of the most inspiring or influential experiences in my life, because I mean, it was lovely. They loaded me with presents, and I sang like Christmas carols with them. I just went there for like the Christmas Eve and spent few hours with them, but it was lovely. And it also broke this idea of me, you know, of this division that religion creates. For me, it was, you know, after that day it was completely vanished, and I realized that what's important is just being a good human and nothing else. So that was one of the most touching experiences of my life. And they also gave me a small, you know, woven angel. The mother of the family, she has made this angel for her daughters, and she also made one for me. It's like a small white woven angel, and it's like for my protection, and I still keep it with myself. And I actually believe that it's there for my protection, and I have it in my home, and whenever I'm traveling I attach it to my backpack. So imagine, like, I don't share the language with them, I don't share the culture, the religion, anything. All we share was this love or goodness, or this belief in respect and humanity. So that's what I also learned from that experience. And what else? Then I was volunteering in Ukraine for 1 month, and again I lived with a host family. Like, that's how the program was designed. Again, that was a wonderful experience, and I remember once I showed them a picture of this place that I wanted to visit, and I just asked them, like, where is it? Maybe you have seen the picture. It's called the Tunnel of Love. It's like a railway track, and it's covered by trees from all sides. Yeah, and I just showed them, like, I just wanted to ask them where it is, but they actually planned a trip just because of me, even though they were not, you know, required to do so. Like their just task was to host me and make sure that I am safe and feed me. But they again, it was like a different religion. They were like Orthodox. So that was one of the most touching experiences. And then it was Sri Lanka that was very interesting for me. As you can see, like even for whatever I have narrated up until now, I had experience with different religions. So in Sri Lanka, I also got to see Hinduism and Buddhism from very close. And that was very interesting for me. And one of the most beautiful things in Sri Lanka for me, like how different religions are together there. Like in Pakistan, there is a clear majority of Muslims, but in Sri Lanka it was different. They had like a lot of Hindus, a lot of Christians, a lot of Muslims, and a lot of Buddhists. So sometimes you would be in a Buddhist, you know, they call it a stupa, where you go around their place of worship. You would be there, and then you will hear the church bells from somewhere nearby. At the same time, you will hear the call of prayer from a mosque. So it was different religions that you would experience all together. And the second thing I learned there was, because of our history with India, of course, like we are always taught that Indians were the bad people and we were the good people. You know, like how every country like teaches its history. And we were always taught that Hindus are very discriminatory and they have this caste system and blah blah blah. But there I was hosted by a Hindu family. Like I was traveling to the north of Sri Lanka, which is a predominantly Hindu area. And I sent requests to this guy on couch surfing, and I was with a friend from Spain, and he hosted us for 2-3 days. And it also changed my views completely about Hinduism, because when I was there, they always made sure to give us, you know, the best food. And if we were taking a bus or a boat, they would try that I sit in the most, you know, comfortable position so I can have the best view. And also with them, I visited this Hindu temple where they had different illustrations. It was not allowed to take pictures there, because otherwise I really wanted to capture that. But there was a picture with one of the, let's say, Hindu gods, and a woman who was like very poor, and the guys were explaining me what each of those illustrations meant. So he told me that this god, like, he married this poor Hindu girl, and from that point what they wanted to share was that there is no caste system. Imagine, like, a god was marrying, you know, an ordinary girl. So what he told me, that it's not something, the caste system is not something that is fostered by Hinduism. It's something that is a part of culture and people still practice it, but it's not something that's encouraged by Hinduism. It's just a misconception. So that was like also an eye-opening moment for me. And then I also visited one of these Hindu temples where they give free food for everyone, and I experienced it that because I went there too, and we all sat down. My friend with me was Christian. I come from an Islamic background, and then I saw like very upper class people, poor people, they would all sit down and they serve you food on banana leaves. So it was also beautiful, because I always knew when I was like back in Pakistan that Islam is the only religion which supports equality, and you go to a mosque where you see that rich people, poor people, and everybody stand in a line and pray together. But when I saw travel, I saw that it's something that is not only in Islam, but it's also in other religions too. So this idea, or if ever I had even a bit of this idea that maybe I am on the right path and everybody's on the wrong path, that completely was destroyed. And it also made me feel very free, like when you're free of any stereotypes, any negativity, there is nothing that is keeping your soul. And these sort of my experiences were like the most interesting. And what else? I have more, but if like I can like continue talking for hours.
That's great.
Yeah.
You were taught that Indians are bad.
Yeah.
But what about British?
Britishers, yeah, we also know them as. It's also interesting, like how the history taught us. Like Indians were, I would say, on top, and then came the Britishers. But if you actually realize it, it was the Britishers who started everything, but we don't blame them as much as we do the Hindus. I think it's how the politics is interesting. But yeah, in our country, people often don't blame Britishers that much. They are still willing to go to UK. A lot of people go to UK. You might know that both Indians and Pakistanis, also Bangladeshis, are one of the biggest immigrant groups in England. And they are willing to go and do even odd jobs in UK. But they would never do it for each other. Like a Pakistani would not go to India and do that kind of stuff there. But they are happy with the Britishers. It's interesting, and it's also interesting that you asked this question, because it is worth thinking that why don't we hate Britishers like we hate the Hindus or the Indians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Continue your
travel experiences.
Travel experience. Yeah.
Okay, and then I was in 2019, I went to Norway, where they have the International Student Festival in Trondheim. It's been organized since 1990, and they organize it once every 2 years. It's the biggest gathering of international students, and even though it's called festival, it's not that we are having fun there. It's it has an academic approach to it. And the year that I traveled there, or I participated in the festival, the theme was migration. And it was an interesting topic for me, because once I started traveling, I met people who were expats in different countries, and I just observe how they integrate in the society, or how do they think about their home countries or their host countries. So in fact, even the application that I submitted, it was completely raw, and it was totally based on my travel experiences. I didn't write any facts and figures or did any research for that. It was solely based on my experiences, and I got selected. In fact, they even funded my travel for this conference. So the workshop that I chose, the theme was migration, and then it had sub workshops. For example, brain drain, or employment issues when people migrate from one country to another. And I was in faith movements, where we were discussing how religious, culture, or personal beliefs affect you when you move from one country to another country, or how they affect your integration into the society. And it was very wonderful. We were 20 people in our workshop, all from different countries, from Argentina, from Indonesia, from USA, completely, different parts of the world. And we were discussing very sensitive topics, like religion, and we never had any problem. And after that conference, I had some interesting events which were closely related to that conference or whatever we were discussing. So after Norway, I went to Denmark. On my way back to Turkey, I just stopped by Denmark. And
can I ask you
Sure.
why you said that you had no problem when you discussed, because each of you was from different cultures, different parts of the world, yeah?
Mhm.
So you didn't have any problems. Why? How do you think? What do you think?
I think I used that phrase because of my cultural background. In Pakistan, we never really discuss religion that openly, and we have blasphemy laws in our country. So if you say anything which is not even against another religion, but even if you're expressing your view, which is somehow contradictory to the other religion, you can be in trouble. And that's how it was in Pakistan. So when I went to Norway, and we were different religions, and we were even some people were arguing if religion is behind the problems in the world. We were all very calm and respecting each other's opinion. So that was interesting for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was interesting that you're in another environment without laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, without government.
True.
without uh, traditions and mass and co-believers, yes, co-followers,
Yes.
supportive and, environment. You were just people.
Yeah.
You were, and you personally was just a person who share your opinion, and
Right.
nothing else. And other people perceived you as just as a person with some background, stereotypes, prejudices, beliefs, and opinion.
Right.
Religion is just an opinion, yeah?
Yeah.
And that was a basis, foundation for discussion and cooperation and coexistence, peaceful, yeah, coexistence.
Yeah.
So nothing special, just ordinary thing, thoughts, exchange.
Yeah. No, it's right that in fact these events are important because they give you, like, they focus a lot on dialogue, that just talk whatever you feel about each other, and it helps you to, because sometimes you are perceiving another person, like I give you that example of that scarf and the hairpin, that sometimes you are thinking something else, but the other person is not exactly thinking that way. So it's good to talk things out, because you can't always be 100% sure what the other person's perspective is.
Yeah.
So these kind of events, they bring people together and they encourage you to talk each other and get rid of the negativity and the stereotypes that are spread by media.
Yes, and you were open-minded also, and it was a discussion and a space to share your opinions and listen to other people's opinions. Yeah, and no domination. Yeah, no power, no authority.
Yes.
No wish to force people, influence, urge them to follow you, yeah,
Exactly.
to be leaders, just one of equal.
Exactly. Or I would say it was just a safe environment where you could express yourself without even, hesitation, or without thinking twice that it might hurt someone, because everybody was so understanding there and respectful. So that was lovely. And as I was mentioning, that on the way back I spent 2 days in Copenhagen, and I was using couch surfing, and I was hosted by a guy, and he's one of the most, I would say, inspirational person that I've ever met. In fact, I turned vegetarian because of him. Yeah, like, of course I did like maybe a research over 1 year, but he was the one who initially shared this idea. Like, he was someone who was thinking about how his actions are affecting anything. And he also said that, maybe I also mentioned it in the other interview, that every cent that you spend is actually a vote towards that thing. So if I go and buy, let's say, meat, it means that I'm encouraging the meat industry, which is true, because as I come from also an economics background, I understand how the demand and supply works. So that idea really helped me to make decisions and to be more cautious of how my decisions are, affecting others. And then while I was still in Copenhagen, I remember we just went out for a walk, and I met this really small girl, like she was 5 years, I remember. And we started talking. Like, by her looks, I didn't realize that she was from Pakistan, but she was a Pakistani who was born and raised in Denmark. And then, she got like really kind of attached to me for no reason. Or maybe the reason was that because I come from Pakistan too, so she felt that we are from like the same tribe, I would say. And the question she asked me, like, do you believe in Allah? And for me it was shocking because it's just a 5 years old child. And that's when I linked this to that conference that I had just attended, like how faith impacts you. Because a lot of these families, when they move to another country, I think they feel this pressure to retain their cultural or religious identity. And it can sometimes have bad impact on the children, because if they think that they have to be friends with the people from the same community, it kind of distances them from the community that they are living in. Like, if she's a 5-year-old is asking this question, I didn't find it, like, it was somewhat uncomfortable for me. Like, at 5 years, you don't even know what religion is, what God is. At that age, you don't really start, questioning these things. And then she called her sister, who was, I think, 7 or 8, and she introduced me. And also, when her sister came, the first question she asked me, like, are you also a Muslim? And I was shocked, and I realized that the conference that we were having was for a purpose. It was not that they just thought that, okay, let's do a workshop on this too. It means that there is a problem around integration of people. And then when I was coming back to Turkey, I was at the airport. Unfortunately, there was some trouble with the weathers and all the flights were, delayed. So I was stuck in Istanbul at the airport for like 2 days. And there I met, she was actually a Russian woman who was living in Sweden. She was married to a Pakistani, and she was visiting Turkey, like Antalya, to see like some property there. And she said that they want to move to Turkey now because they have a daughter and they don't want her to raise in that culture. So again, it was something based upon the cultural or the personal beliefs. And they were moving just because of that. Otherwise, of course, I'm sure that the economy and everything in Sweden is better than Turkey. And people in Turkey are actually trying to go to maybe Sweden. But they were returning to Turkey because they wanted their daughter to be raised in that environment. And again, I was still at the airport. It's interesting, I'm like generally an introvert, but when I'm traveling, I talk to more people. I met this other woman who has her parents, one of her parents were from Pakistan and the other from Iran. She was living in Germany. She had a daughter my age, and she said like maybe her daughter and I can travel together someday, because she said she doesn't really allow her dead daughter to travel alone. She in fact showed me pictures of New Year where she was together with her daughter, and she said like she's worried that her daughter would get influenced by the more European or the Western culture and would go into drugs or alcohol and that kind of problem. So she doesn't even let her daughter alone, and they live in Germany. They were like raised in Germany. So again, this is something where you have this pressure to protect your beliefs. And it was interesting that just after attending this conference, I had all these experiences. I believe it's not just a coincidence, or maybe it is, but it's, I feel like it's a part of a divine plan to reinforce the importance of things. So I guess these are all.
So interesting. And the conference, it was a special, very special and very unique space, safe space, where people feel safe, and they think about love, maybe, about friendship, about good things, not about competition, yes, and how to survive, how to be more violent, maybe, yes, to win in this race.
Crazy world.
So environment is important, yeah,
Absolutely.
where everybody is satisfied